For as long as we've existed, we've looked for truth. Some turn their eyes to the heavens, seeking meaning beyond what can be seen. Others look through the lens of reason, testing, questioning, measuring the universe. But for centuries, one question has echoed through our history. Can faith and reason truly coexist, or must belief surrender to science? And science silence belief. In the ancient world, faith and philosophy were partners, two ways of understanding the same mystery. Later, they became rivals. From medieval theologians to modern scientists, humanity has wrestled with this tension between what we feel is true and what we can prove. Today, the debate continues. Neuroscience maps the brain's spiritual experiences. Cosmology traces the birth of the universe. And yet, millions still find meaning in prayer, in love, and in hope. So, are faith and reason enemies, or allies searching for the same truth through different paths? In this video, we'll journey through philosophy, theology, and science, from Thomas Aquinas to Kierkegaard, from Nietzsche to modern cosmologists, to uncover whether belief demands the death of reason, or whether it completes it. And before we begin, if you believe this is a question worth asking, take a moment to like this video, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. After all, the search for truth begins with conversation. Chapter 1. Ancient Roots of the Question. Before the clash between faith and science ever began, human beings sought truth in the same two places, in the mind and in the mystery. In ancient Greece, thinkers like Plato and Aristotle believed reason was the path to the divine. To understand the world was to glimpse the order behind it, the logic woven into the cosmos itself. For Plato, ultimate truth existed beyond the visible world, a realm of perfect forms, untouched by human error. And for Aristotle, reason was not an enemy of wonder, but its very foundation. When Christianity emerged centuries later, it didn't destroy philosophy, it absorbed it. Early Christian thinkers like St. Augustine believed that faith and reason were not opposing forces, but partners in a single journey toward truth. He once wrote, "I believe in order to understand." For Augustine, faith was not blindness. It was the light that allowed reason to see. In the ancient world, faith and reason were not yet enemies. They were two languages speaking about the same mystery, the origin and meaning of existence. Where reason sought to explain the how, faith sought to reveal the why. And though their methods differed, their goal was shared, to understand the truth that lies beyond ourselves. But as centuries passed, this harmony would begin to tremble. The question would arise once again, can human logic truly grasp the divine, or must one choose between the mind and the soul? Chapter 2. The Great Synthesis, Thomas Aquinas. By the 13th century, a quiet revolution was taking place in the heart of medieval Europe. Ancient Greek philosophy had been rediscovered, and with it, the challenge of reconciling human reason with divine revelation. At the center of this movement stood a Dominican friar, Thomas Aquinas. To many, he was not only a theologian, but an architect of harmony between two worlds, the world of faith and the world of reason. Aquinas believed that truth is one, and that both faith and reason, when rightly understood, lead to it. Reason, he said, allows us to know the natural world, its order, its laws, its cause and effect. Faith, on the other hand, reveals what lies beyond reason, truths we could never reach by logic alone. He wrote, "Faith and reason are like two wings on which the human spirit rises to the contemplation of truth." To Aquinas, science and philosophy were not threats to belief. They were allies. If God created the world, then studying nature was another way of reading the divine handwriting within it. In a time when superstition and dogma often ruled, Aquinas dared to argue that faith without reason becomes blind, and reason without faith becomes empty. His synthesis would shape Western thought for centuries, inspiring universities, guiding theology, and influencing science itself. But as time moved forward, new voices began to question whether such harmony could truly last. Could faith survive without proof? Could reason explain the mysteries of the soul? The balance Aquinas built would soon be tested by a philosopher who saw faith not as knowledge, but as a leap into the unknown. Chapter 3. The Leap of Faith, Kierkegaard. As Europe entered the 19th century, faith was no longer the foundation of society. It was a question. Industrial progress, new sciences, and the rise of reason had begun to shake the certainty of belief. And yet, one man, alone in Copenhagen, saw something deeper in the silence of doubt. His name was Søren Kierkegaard. For Kierkegaard, faith was not the absence of reason, but the courage to go beyond it. He called it the leap of faith. To believe in God, he said, is to make a personal, passionate choice that defies logic and transcends calculation. Faith is not a formula, it's a risk, a step into the unknown. In his famous reflection on the story of Abraham, Kierkegaard imagined the old man standing on the mountain, ready to sacrifice his son, not because it made sense, but because he trusted something greater than sense itself. For Kierkegaard, this was the essence of faith, not blind obedience, but an act of ultimate freedom, the choice to trust where reason cannot see. He challenged the world to see that faith and reason do not share the same language. Reason asks for evidence. Faith answers with commitment. Where Aquinas had built bridges between the two, Kierkegaard built a cliff and invited humanity to jump. But others would soon look at that same cliff and declare that God himself had fallen from it. Chapter 4. The Death of God, Nietzsche and the Challenge of Science. The 19th century, an age of progress, of reason, of discovery. The telescope revealed new worlds. The microscope uncovered new life. The human mind, once humbled before mystery, now stood in awe of its own power. But amid this triumph of science and rationality, one voice rose to challenge the very foundation of faith. His name was Friedrich Nietzsche. Nietzsche looked upon the world and declared a shocking truth: God is dead. It was not a celebration, it was an obituary. He meant that humanity, in its pursuit of knowledge, had killed the idea of the divine that once gave life meaning. The rise of science had not only explained the heavens, it had emptied them. Nietzsche saw what few dared to see, that without God, the modern world risked losing its moral compass, its sense of purpose, its soul. He warned that we might become the last men, comfortable, rational, efficient, but empty. A society that knows how to live, but no longer knows why. Where Kierkegaard's leap of faith reached toward transcendence, Nietzsche turned inward, urging humanity to create its own meaning, to become the Übermensch, the being who writes his own values in the silence of a godless world. For Nietzsche, reason was not the enemy, it was the new creator. But it came with a price, the death of certainty and the birth of existential loneliness. The age of faith was over, and the age of science had begun. Yet, as the modern world advanced, a new question emerged. Was the conflict between science and religion inevitable, or simply misunderstood? Chapter 5. Conflict or Misunderstanding. Science enters the scene. By the dawn of the scientific age, humanity had begun to measure the heavens, to question the earth, and to seek truth not from revelation, but from observation. The Church had been the guardian of knowledge for centuries, and yet the tools of reason it once nurtured would now be used to question its own authority. When Galileo Galilei turned his telescope toward the stars, he saw not a fixed, perfect cosmos, but a universe in motion, a universe that contradicted the teachings of his time. His discoveries ignited one of history's most famous clashes: science against the Church, reason against faith. But history, as it often does, tells only half the story. Galileo himself was a man of faith. He wrote that the Bible teaches us how to go to heaven, not how the heavens go. To him there was no war, only misunderstanding. The same was true centuries later with Charles Darwin. When On the Origin of Species was published, many saw evolution as a direct assault on creation. But Darwin never claimed to destroy faith. He sought to understand the process, the how, not the why. For every scientist who questioned religion, there were others who believed that discovery was another way to praise the Creator. Isaac Newton, Johannes Kepler, Gregor Mendel. Their faith fueled their curiosity. The supposed war between science and religion was not a battle of truth against lies, but of methods and languages. Science seeks the measurable. Faith seeks the meaningful. And when they forget this difference, they begin to fight the wrong enemy. In truth, both are driven by the same impulse to understand where we come from and what our place is in the vastness of existence. But as science advanced into the modern age, into the mysteries of the mind and the origins of the cosmos, the question grew even deeper. Can faith survive the findings of neuroscience and cosmology? Or could they, at last, bring faith and reason back together? Chapter 6. Modern Insights, Neuroscience, Cosmology, and the Mind of God. In the modern age, humanity's gaze turned both outward, into the vastness of the cosmos, and inward, into the hidden landscape of the mind. Two great frontiers, neuroscience and cosmology, both asking ancient questions with new instruments. Neuroscience began to map the human soul, or at least what we once called the soul. Scientists observed that prayer, meditation, and moments of transcendence all leave traces in the brain, patterns of activity measurable and real. Some claimed this proved that spirituality is nothing but biology. Others saw the opposite, that the brain is not the source of the divine but its instrument. That consciousness might be more than chemistry, perhaps a window into something beyond matter. Meanwhile, cosmology was rewriting the story of creation. With the Big Bang, scientists discovered that the universe had a beginning, a single moment when space, time, and energy burst into existence. A beginning that, for centuries, theologians had already spoken of as creation ex nihilo, creation from nothing. And here, again, faith and reason found themselves face to face. Some saw proof of a creator, others, only the elegant unfolding of natural laws. But perhaps, said physicist Stephen Hawking, to understand the mind of God is simply to understand the laws by which the universe exists. For every voice claiming science has replaced God, there is another suggesting science reveals his fingerprints in the fine-tuning of the universe, in the mystery of consciousness, in the fact that we can understand any of it at all. Francis Collins, a geneticist and Christian, once said, "Science is the language through which God speaks." And Georges Lemaitre, the priest who first proposed the Big Bang, saw no conflict between the Bible and the cosmos, only wonder. The closer we look into the universe and the deeper we dive into the mind, the more we find that both are filled with mystery. Not contradictions, but questions. Maybe the boundary between faith and reason was never a wall, but a horizon, a place where science and spirit meet in the shared search for truth. Chapter 7. Faith beyond proof, the human need for meaning. For all our progress, for every mystery solved, for every atom understood, one question remains: why does any of it matter? Human beings are not satisfied with knowledge alone. We need meaning. We long not only to understand the universe, but to belong within it. Science can tell us how the stars burn, but not why their beauty moves us to tears. It can explain the chemistry of love, but not the reason we sacrifice for it. It can trace the neurons that fire when we pray, but not the hope that drives us to our knees. Faith begins where explanation ends, not as denial, but as depth. Philosophers like Charles Taylor and Alistair McGrath remind us that faith is not the opposite of reason, but the extension of it, a way of engaging the world with trust, with purpose, with moral imagination. In a purely material world, human life risks becoming a statistic, a collection of data points without story. But faith gives the story back. It offers a why to the how. Even those who claim no religion often search for something transcendent, in art, in music, in love, in the night sky. Perhaps faith is not merely belief in doctrines, but belief in meaning itself. In the end, faith and reason are not two enemies competing for truth. They are two human responses to the same mystery. Reason explains the world. Faith gives it a soul. Chapter 8. Faith and Reason Today, a dialogue, not a duel. Today, the story of faith and reason is being rewritten, not as a battle, but as a conversation. Across the world, philosophers, scientists, and believers are rediscovering that these two forces were never meant to destroy each other, but to complete each other. In neuroscience, we explore the mind. In theology, we explore the meaning of mind. In cosmology, we study the birth of the universe. In faith, we ask why there is something rather than nothing. Each speaks a different language, but both seek the same truth. The modern world no longer needs to choose between knowledge and wonder. We can be rational and reverent, curious and compassionate, skeptical and spiritual, all at once. As physicist Carl Sagan once said, science is not only compatible with spirituality, it is a profound source of it. Perhaps the true conflict was never between faith and reason, but between understanding and ignorance, between fear and curiosity. And as we continue to explore both the universe and ourselves, we may yet discover that truth is far too vast to be contained by science alone, or by faith alone. Together, they form the full picture, the two wings of the human spirit, rising in search of truth. Conclusion, the two wings of truth. Through centuries of thought, humanity has sought to answer one profound question: can faith and reason coexist? From the ancient philosophers to the theologians of the Middle Ages, to the existentialists who dared to leap, to the scientists uncovering the secrets of the mind and the cosmos. The journey has been long, complex, and ever-changing. What emerges is not a battle, but a partnership. Faith and reason are not enemies. They are two wings of the human spirit, lifting us toward truth. Reason guides our steps through the world we can measure. Faith carries us into the unknown, into the questions that cannot yet be answered. In embracing both, we honor the fullness of our existence, curious, rational, searching, and inspired. If this journey through faith and reason has sparked your curiosity or made you reflect on your own beliefs, take a moment to like this video, subscribe for more explorations of philosophy, science, and the human spirit, and share your thoughts in the comments below. After all, the search for truth is not a path we walk alone. It is a conversation, across centuries, across disciplines, across hearts. Faith and reason, two wings rising together,